Okay. Good morning, Rabotai. I wanted to discuss the life of Rabbi Khalifa Malka. Rabbi Khalifa Benmalka. This Chacham was born in the city of Safi, in the year Taf Lamed, very early in the circle. We don't know exactly, but around the year 1670, and he lived a long life because there are according to many of the sources, he lived until year 1769. So that would be 99 years old. So that's definitely a very old age, and he always looked very good. According to the writings, he was a strong person. From his youth, Rabbi Khalifa Benmalka was an orphan. He didn't know about his father, mother, brother, or uncles. He was alone in the world. And this is so interesting how you get a glimpse of the yeshiva world that was in Morocco then. People speak a lot about the yeshiva world in Europe, the yeshiva world that went on, the whole system, but people don't realize that in Morocco itself, there was a whole yeshiva world. He went into the Bet Midrash of Rav Yehuda ben Attar, the great El Kabir, buried in Fez, that the Or HaChaim also knew of that yeshiva, took it over eventually, and he learned together with Rav Shmuel at Tzarfati at that time, and he stayed there approximately for 2 years in Fez. He quotes that he used to pray in the Bet Midrash of the Toshavim. The Toshavim were those who were in Morocco even before the Megurashim, also mostly of Spanish descent. For example, they didn't say Brach on Halal, they followed the Rambam in many things. That was the Bet Knesset of the Toshavim. After that, he returned back to Asafi. Apparently, there were people from Holland that would go back and forth to Morocco for trade, and especially there was his Rav Yosef Bueno di Mesquita, that it sounds like also from an area maybe in Holland, and it was already there's already testimonies that there was a family of Di Mesquita in Saleh that are dressed differently than the Jews in Morocco. It means they're more European Jews, but this Rav Yosef Di Mesquita had a yeshiva there, and that's where Rabbi Khalifa learned. And he writes over there, also a yeshiva system in the city of Safi. Yosef, this is for you, that he was together with a student who was learning under him, Rabbi Avram ben Musa. Rabbi Avram ben Musa, the author of Nirdin Atan Recho, of the Shita Ktaviyat and Masechet Yuma that we were zoche to put out, and the Minchat Sota. That was one of his Talmidim, as well as Rabbi Yaakovi ben Sur, not the same one that we know, the Yavetz, but another one. And he writes that he learned with those students. Now there are all types of, I would call it not rumors, but there's all types of assumptions that Rabbi Khalifa was also a son-in-law of Rabbi Moshe ben Attar, the father of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. How substantiated that is, not very sure. Also, there are suggestions that the daughter of Rabbi Khalifa ben Malka was married to Rabbi David ben Baruch Kohen Azug, who's buried in the Kfar Ayed Bahamo in Tarudant. It's considered one of the big Tzaddikim. And this is also that it's not totally substantiated, but it is written in some of the sources. It says Sefer Keter Kedusha apparently writes this. Now, but Rav Moshe Amar, from the introduction to the Sefer Kaf Naki, which I'm reading from, he has questions if that's true or not. He has certain questions on that. But either way, Rabbi Khalifa ben Malka, we know him because of his Sefer and how much the Chida spoke about his Sefer. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse. It's definitely known that he was a businessman. If he was already living in Agadir at the time, which is where he was buried, he would always go by ships back and forth. And he writes in one of his ma'amarim how when he was coming from the city of Marrakesh to Agadir with 2 Jews and 2 Goyim, they had a very big fear. They had to go to a village and they had to take shelter in some village. They thought they would die, and he dreamt, why does he have to be in Parnassa that way? That's where he discusses about dreams. Maybe another time we'll discuss it more at length. He also seems to have had a din Torah with his father-in-law about the different rights, about what what belonged to him and what didn't belong to him. So that it's written in some of the Piskei Dinim of Fez that way, that there was those Dinei Torah. Either way, Rabbi Khhalifa Benmalka was known as a tremendous Chassid. If you see how he writes about tefillin, that he would be machmir to wear tefillin the Rabbeinu Tam between Yom Kippur and Simchat Torah, because that's when somebody is clean from Avirot, and he would wear it once, at least to say that he's not like a karkafta de lo manach tefillin, that is not like he was never yotze the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. So he also wore other tefillin that were according to other shitot in different times. He was also a very big poet. For example, when he was in Fez and in the Toshavim city, in the Bet Knesset Toshavim, somebody didn't want to lend him a sefer. He wrote a poem of rebuke against him instead of just going straight at him. He wrote a poem of rebuke against him. He also didn't like his name Khhalifa. He says Khalifa. It sounds like it's a Muslim name. He wanted to change it to a different name, and at the end he came up with the calculation that his name should be Asaf, because Asaf is the same gematria as Khalifa, and therefore he writes in one of his poems, Yana Mishoreru Anochi Mishkal Shemo Ba Becheshbon Asaf. The amount of my name will come to Asaf. Okay. He also obviously was a tremendous Marbitz Torah at the time, and he wrote his Sefer Kaf Naki, which next time we'll go a little bit more into, but at least we introduced a little bit the life of Rav Khhalifa Benmalka. He's buried in Agadir. As a matter of fact, he was buried in one place. 1946, they built a road. They had to move his kibbutz to another place. So but that's where people go pray. As this great Chacham, Rabbi Khhalifa Benmalka, they've seen many nisim from there. And we'll discuss a little bit more about his life in another opportunity. Chazak u'baruch.